Brother Danny, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Pirate Eddie. Thanks
Good to
for
see
having
you.
me. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
Danny, you're one of our favorite pirates of all time. We
W-
fucking love you.
We have, we
as you
have,
say, is it wrong for another man to love another man? Pirate
If
Chris.
it is, then I'll be wrong.
we have Ruckus Maker withdrawal. That's what we have.
Oh no. Well, let's infuse some Ruckus Maker swagger
Yeah, yeah,
into the
yeah.
space.
So I got to tell you, Danny, when it was for something else, but obviously in preparation for this, when I asked you to kind of share some of the go back in the Wayback Machine, and you shared some of the outcomes that you had as you were
Mm.
kind of doing it, like. Uh, I knew the list would be long. I didn't think it would be that long. And I was like, oh, Danny's like the mishmash of every kind of great education movie, Stand and Deliver, and whatever else. Like it's kind of like if you told me that they were all based on you, I would totally believed it. So
That's very kind. Thank you.
what? Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of what my favorites were. Like whether it was the one where you got I don't know 100 students to run the Chicago Marathon with
Mm.
you, which was like, okay, wow. And then, or if it's the, I forget if it was Taco Tuesday or whatever, when Danny, as the principal, showed up in the lunch line and was serving tacos because he figured out that was the most popular thing. But, like I think at the core, we're all in love with you as a pirate and love what you're doing as an impact. But we know that at one point, all of the ruckus making was a little germ of a seed of an
Mm.
idea, and that somehow you made the leap from getting all these principal of the year awards for doing all these amazing things to I'm going to go help other people. I know people were asking you about that, but I think we were just kind of curious because all of the incentives because of all the accolades that you were getting would suggest that you would just stay doing the job that you were getting praised for or moving up the food chain. But then what was kind of the moment where you pulled back your shirt and there was a big R and for Ruckus Maker there?
Yeah. The moment pulling back the big R, and I used to be embarrassed to share this, but I'm pretty sure I was going to get fired.
Do tell.
Right? Yeah. I'm in my supervisor's office, and she all of a sudden says to me, "I have deep concerns about your leadership." Really, right? And this is news to me because everywhere I've been, I've won the awards, I've led the teams, I've only gotten praise. Right? It doesn't mean I couldn't grow, and certainly doesn't mean that I make mistakes and could be better. But this was feedback that I received that just wasn't lining up to experience. If we go backwards in time, it felt even weirder because the same supervisor, we were walking up and down the halls as you do in schools. You go watch some teachers teach and then you debrief like what kind of feedback would you give, how you coach them up and that kind of thing. We're finishing each other's sentences, kind of like we do in this space, right? And then all of a sudden, everything changed, right? The writing was on the wall. And the wildest part about that, I think it was I think it was right after Christmas break. I came back, turned in my resignation letter halfway through the year. The supervisor laughed in my face and said, "I didn't think you'd resign so fast." And I said, "I'm not playing games here, right? I see the writing on the wall and I've got other stuff I can do." And that was the Ruckus Maker swagger. At that
Wow.
time, I had been creating a podcast, and it was reaching a lot of people. Folks were for writing in, asking for support, that kind of thing, and that was super fun.
This
Always
is at
doing it.
Memorial when you were at Memorial. Is
Mm,
that right? Okay.
correct. Yeah. 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 I like to say it was my first and last rodeo down in Texas. And anyways, yeah, things were going okay. Doing it always nights and weekends, and that was part of the push. Also, same time, my wife was interested in exploring academic jobs overseas. So kind of those things met at the right time. So what the hell? Let's try it, right, babe? If this doesn't work, I can always go back and be a principal somewhere. There's international schools, that kind of thing. But what if it works? And it continues to work. I just continue to show up. It's grown, and that's been
Hey,
pretty wild.
hey, Danny, I hate to interrupt you, but
Please do.
Say more about the what if it works question.
Well, that's the sort of thing, I think there's that Marianne Wilkinson. I don't know if I'm getting the last name right, but the poem
Marianne Williamson.
Williamson, Our Deepest Fear. And I think it's sort of in the same line, right? Like it's not about how small we are, the struggle and all that kind of stuff, but what if our light actually shines really bright, And that poem has always resonated with me. Actually, as a sixth grade teacher, I used to have my students memorize it, and I've butchered it. I didn't say it word for word, but I got the gist right. And yeah, so it was like, what if this works? I'm having a lot of fun. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like just hanging out with friends, right? Like on the pirate ship, and people are growing. The irony of me in my local position going through hell, yet folks that I'm serving are just thriving like crazy. And as Eddie said, winning all the awards and this kind of stuff. I think I'll lean into that. And so I used to be super embarrassed, but now it's like, well, the proof's in the pudding, and now I've got the results. And as you know, as a category designer, it's all about the results you create. So it's all good. Not worried about it.
A question for you. How long had you been doing the podcast before you handed in your resignation letter?
Let's say 2 years, maybe 3, but certainly 2. So early days, early days for sure. And as I reflect, I think it's important for the listener to hear this. I used to be really upset, and I took it personal in the beginning, right? Like, how could you do this to Danny? Like, it's so terrible. And it felt like so unfair. But I was able to turn it around. I was sitting in my mom's kitchen, and I was looking at my first book that came out, and I saw on Amazon, #1 hot new release, right? Looked at my bank account. I actually had earned more than I earned as a principal. Looked at the client list, right? Wow, look at all these really cool people I get to work with. And all the resentment I had, I feel like I had this icy cold heart, but we were in Florida and the sunshine was, coming in. I felt it just all melt away. It was actually a gift, what I experienced there. But it took me a year or two to understand that.
Wait, Danny, can you just, the timing of it was podcast first and then book, or book first and then podcast, or?
Yeah, podcast first, because, I didn't write the book. I always wanted to write a book. Podcast first, serve, sending emails like crazy, creating social content.
And the goal for the podcast, was it similar to Christopher's of like, I just want to have conversations with fun people, or were you
to take over the world and, galaxy domination? I started the podcast because I knew I could grow as a leader, which is, super funny when you hear I've got deep leadership concerns. And the reality of working in Chicago public schools, really fun district. I loved it there. Had a great mentor and friend who was my principal when I was an assistant principal, but in such a big, massive system, right? At the time, third largest school district. There wasn't a lot of support for assistant principals, right? There wasn't a lot of conferences, events that they sent you out. There certainly wasn't like you assigned a mentor. And principals are busy, right? So you get a little bit of time, but I wanted to grow. I went to a conference called the Global Leadership Summit. From the stage, the facilitator said, when you get better, everybody wins, right? Mm-hmm. And you could see I've sort of re-swizzled it, behind me, and made that part of something that I say. I mean, I use re-swizzle now. Pirate Christopher gave me that one. And that moment was a big one from the stage, because I thought, how am I getting better, right? If everybody wins when I get better, how am I getting better? I'm at this conference. I don't have another one lined up. I probably should invest in it more. What should I do? All right, I'll pick up a microphone, talk to really cool people. And I figured, hey, if I took action on at least one idea, that folks shared, I would get better. Doing that, learning in public, transformed me into some Ruckus Maker guy that people wanted to hear from more. And here we are.
Now, Danny, by way of context, how long had you been a principal?
That was 1 year. Right.
So you were 1 year into your first principal gig. Is that right?
First principalship. And they said, you suck, Danny. You're the worst. We're going to fire you.
And how long had you been an educator before the one
Uh,
year principalness?
I was a teacher for over a decade, so maybe 12, 13 years. Uh, I was in central office supporting a big, massive program in Chicago, and then I moved into an assistant principal role. Um, yeah,
And so people have a sort of mental picture in their minds of what educators are like. And, the picture I have is very, very nice people, affable people, people who've committed themselves to
mm,
the care and nurturing and obviously education of our young people, and very, very sort of empathetic and so forth, kind of, if you will, angels on this earth. Um, but you don't necessarily think of them as ruckus makers, change makers, and you don't necessarily think of them as risk takers in the way an entrepreneur would be a risk taker. So I'm just curious, Danny. You're a year in, you've gotten your big job, you're a principal now, and you've climbed the ladder quickly, right? And after a year, your boss says, we kind of think you're a shitty leader.
yeah,
And rather than, crawling into a fetal position and and suffering, which you may have done a little bit, you'll tell us, but um, you made a decision. Can you take us back to that time and your thinking then?
well, the podcast was going okay in growing, and people were sharing that. So that was a signal that counteracted sort of the other stuff that I was hearing out there. So that certainly helped. I read Play Bigger back then. I was in a mastermind that we all read Play Bigger.
How did a
Read
bunch of principals find Play Bigger in category design?
This was actually a business mastermind, so I was in there just because I have this podcast that's kind of taken off, and so what should I do about it? And I started talking to people.
Danny's a
So it
mixed
wasn't.
martial artist.
I am.
No
I can
shit,
take you
he's a
down.
mixed martial artist, because I don't know if a lot of principals are reading about category design.
No, that yeah. And so I mean, and I think I think one of my superpowers too is learning an idea like that, and then thinking about what's the bridge to education. So when I formed a mastermind for school leaders, eventually, actually in 2016, we never read a book produced by an educator, right? We read books that I wrote begrudgingly because that's what members wanted. But outside of that, and not because education's broken, there's certainly ways it could be improved. But part of the promise was you're going to be exposed to ideas that you never would come across, right? Unless you were in this very special group. And time in, time out, members say, Danny, never would have picked that up. That book changed my life.
So wait, so
And so,
this is interesting. So you had a podcast
yeah,
focused on education.
correct.
You had a book club focused on business skills, kind of all these other things there. And then you wrote your own book about education but sounds like being fed by the podcast and the book club. Is that
For
right?
sure, yeah.
And do you have other sources? So super consumer of one, super of nine, like you want to grow. What are the other sources of growth that you have? Is because like what's very clear is you were building reputation capital as a
Mm,
principal. You were building relationship capital via your podcast, connecting with people, learning from people. But all this time, you're building all this intellectual capital at the same time, creating your own. And to the point where, as you said, you made more from the book than you did your day job, which is like amazing. And so, like, what are the other sources? You had the leadership summit at Willow Creek, right? That's the one you're talking about. Like, what are the other sources of information that you were consuming in intellectual capital that allows you to forge your own?
yeah, so we covered Play Bigger, Niche Down. At some point, Super Consumers, but I think that came later. Category Pirates newsletter, all sorts of different podcasts. I mean, I could run through a million of them, but Tim Ferriss one was really influential. Enjoy that show. And back then, James Altucher, I think, probably had a book maybe called Choose Yourself, and it was like, yeah, why not? I am going to pick me. Like that seems like a really good bet, and it has proved to be true. So I actually saw him at a newsletter conference in Austin just a couple of weeks ago, and that was really neat because that book had a major impact, on my life.
Because Kat, didn't you say also when you first started connecting with Danny? I think Danny, you had said this too. Like you were a massive course super consumer too, right? Like
I think I still am. I have a problem, guys.
Danny, you're just learning too much. You need to stop learning and stop getting smart and get a little more stupid.
The way I
That
used to
words
describe
of a
it to
super
people,
consumer. I think I have a problem.
yeah, I used to say I'm a sponge that scales, right? Because as I soak in more and more information, I think that actually increases the value that I could provide to others.
So Danny, I have a question for you. And this is something that when we did our own research into what it would mean to design your own career, how people are feeling about it today, we started this whole idea of creator capitalist and designing your own path, right? Getting paid to be you, all of those topics. One of the biggest reasons, or one of the biggest fears I would say that people have is, I'm worried about the financial risk. I'm worried that I won't have the money, that I won't be able to replace my salary. That is my number one biggest fear. And I want to do all these things, and I want to be creative, and I want to own my career, and I want to work for myself and choose myself. But money, and I have this grip on it, which, right, it's important. This is a huge topic of conversation for anybody who's going to start their own business and do their own thing. So can you walk us through a little bit, whatever you're comfortable sharing, of what was your financial situation at the time? What were you thinking about as you were going on and doing this on your own? Maybe what sources?
How scared were you? Are you going to become homeless?
How scared were you? Like, did you have any other sources of income? What was that like for you? And then kind of the path to where you are today, or how you were able to continue scaling that up.
It's weird. I don't know that, like, I have some sort of I was reading a post from a friend. He calls himself SEO Jesus, which I just want to bring him into the conversation because that's a hilarious sort of brand name. And he's got this long hair, bigger beard than me, and he's from England too. And he speaks so fast. I'm like, Stu, like, you gotta slow down. I don't understand anything you're saying, like, literally. And so he wrote a post recently that I resonated with, because he talked about how he doesn't like have all these plans, and he wakes up in the morning, and he's not doing the push-ups and the hustle life and one more rep, right? That we're all such big fans of. And he wakes up with an existential crisis every morning. And I said, that's the juice, right? That's what makes you successful. You wake up and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? And why are people, they're all going away tomorrow? And I feel that. Like, I think I still do, even though I'm okay, right? 5 books, 3 bestsellers, the podcast, and top 0.5%. Spoken to groups as small as 10 in Laramie, Wyoming, 1,000 in Mombasa, Kenya, and I still wake up like it's all going away tomorrow. So I maybe that's like motivating for me. But even though that exists, I still pick myself. And if you can sort of punch above your weight class in terms of your partner, you're going to be okay too, right? And so my wife, she had a job, and we were moving to Europe, and there's no right or wrong. There's just different. And over there, they have a little bit more of a safety net, so we didn't have to worry about like health insurance and those kind of things. And so that made it kind of easy to at least be starting out, right?
Where in Europe were you?
Belgium, Netherlands, and then we moved to Scotland. So it was super
there's
fun.
Probably I'm imagining you and your wife walking through somewhere, and then there's a cat going by the.
We could have crossed paths before we officially met.
It's possible, right? It's super possible. So, but it was a lovely experience. Yeah, and that gave us some runway to figure it out. But as I mentioned, I just keep showing up, and year after year, it's grown. Last year was my best year yet. Attribute a lot of that to the Category Design Academy. If you're listening and haven't joined, you need to join. I've said this online, guys, right? You all know that it was the best personal and business investment I made in myself. As a super consumer with a problem of courses, take this course. It's at the top, right? I've taken a lot of courses.
And I'm curious, I know this might sound self-serving, but you are a super consumer of courses.
Yeah.
And you're a legendary educator, a teacher who's committed to this as a craft. This is a calling for you, who had insane success, 10 years of teaching and becoming a principal. I'm not an expert in your domain and your category of work, but that's a very impressive thing, best I can tell. And so you've taken lots of courses. You've been to university. You have degrees and diplomas and all sorts of ding-dongery on the wall. And so how
My
is it
ding-dongery, Christopher, is legendary, by the way.
I have other kinds of ding-dongery on the wall. It's just none of it has anything to do with degrees that I earned. But I'm just curious, like, you've been at some of the greatest learning institutions in the world. What was it about category design, the Category Design Academy, the content, the people? Like, why do you say that?
There's so much, and I want to be, I guess, a little succinct here. You know, the content is life changing. The frameworks, and if I could nail it down to two things, I mean, it's the people. I love you all. You're great, but the cohort was great, and I've made friends. You know, there's people like Pablo. I'm talking to all the time. Um, you know, Iron Mike. We'll talk and he'll say some things that are really funny. And the CEO, you know, the laundry CEO, Waleed, we talk a lot too. So,
Which is
and
amazing
I'm
because he doesn't say much on any of the calls itself.
no, but he absorbs so much, right? Like, yeah, for sure. He was quiet on the calls, but he's just out there,
And he's so
kicking,
cool. God, I
and he's
wish I could
kicking
have
so much
1
ass.
ounce of
Like,
his cool.
yeah, for sure. So it's the people, but then also like the just as important, the generosity, right? Um, a lot of programs or events and those kind of things. I feel or I've experienced, folks are just trying to one up each other and like beat their chest and show how awesome they are. And maybe I've just grown in my confidence. Maybe I got a little more pirate swagger in the community, but it didn't feel like that. You know, just a super generous space where folks really wanted to help each other out. And then you all, right? Like, rarely do you join some type of thing and at the end there's not the bigger thing, right? And from day one you said we're teaching it all. There's not an upsell. There's, whatever. Like, this is our best, what we're giving you. And I get to continue to hang out even though I've graduated, right? Top of class too, I would say. But I still come to the calls. I want to keep learning. I want
Top
to
of
be
class with a
around.
legendary man beard at the same time. Very piratey of you.
I try.
Well, thank you for that. We appreciate the compliment, but more importantly, as an educator, what learning do you take from that in terms of how to design learning courses, experiences, communities? Because you've moved into that world, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're designing your own courses, and you have your own community, and you've created your own group of people who are a true network with each other. I'm assuming in a very similar fashion, and so maybe pop some of that open for us.
It's leaning into your different, right? I mean, that's something that we preach, and a point of view that communicates that clearly, right? And I don't know if you remember, Pirate Christopher, but when I was sort of working on the point of view, you told me it was legendary, and I think you said it's the first time I've heard somebody use a Frodo in the point of view. Like, and that's what I do, and I try to help other people do that too. Like, literally put in that point of view from two. I say Ruckus Makers do school different, and it's making these shifts from old broken traditional ways of educating to new, different, and creative ways, right? And then you pause, right? Because the no sells sell. I'm not forcing it down anybody's throat. If somebody says, what does that mean? I'd like to learn more. I could keep riffing and we can get specific and that kind of thing. And if somebody's not interested, you know, you say God bless, good luck, that kind of. Inside I say some other things, right, that might be the other side of the coin.
I do too, and every once in a while I say them out loud.
Yeah, well, that's shocking to me. But I also shared with you all, and when I do that little riff in that Frodo, 100% of people say I am or I am not a ruckus maker. Mm-hmm. So they've accepted the point of view, the way I see things. That's pretty cool. Now, to your point about courses, workshops, that kind of stuff, and things that I build for ruckus makers in my audience, we ran a workshop for sort of, I called it from talent treadmills to talent incubators. Do you see the theme here? So I kind of like Frodo's. I
Isn't
might
it
have a,
interesting how
yeah,
category designers, creator capitalists, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people who are committed to creating a different future, specifically educate people in their speaking in a very natural way about, well, there's the status quo and there's the way it could be. The Frodo, every time surfacing the Frodo, right? Because the more we get excited about what could be true, what if this works, the more power it has and the more compelling it has. And sooner or later, I love your comment on this, it owns you and you don't own it anymore.
100%. And so, yeah, that workshop, the big picture is education's really struggling with human capital, right? Getting teachers, administrators. Uh, People are running for the exits, honestly. And so the workshop was like, how do we attract people to campus? How do we interview, hire, onboard, and ultimately retain, teachers? And I brought a radically different way of looking at that, influenced by category design, influenced to everything I've read and consumed, my entire life. Um, you can see some people are like, what the hell is he talking about? Right. Our HR department, my superintendent, they never do this. And sometimes I'll look at somebody's, let's just call it a landing page. I don't know what to call it, but where people are promoting their school and saying work here, and it sucks. It's so vanilla, generic. It looks like everybody else. It's not different. And so I'll tear that down and give some examples on how to change it using principles of category design. And then there's some people, they get it and they change it, and then they write in. They said, Danny, it works. I know it works. Of course it works. Because you're standing out in a marketplace that is education, and you're expressing your point of view. You're talking about, I teach schools now. Talk about the problem you're solving on campus. Huh? What do you mean, Danny? And we get into that stuff, right? Your point of view, the problem you solve, and what makes you different. And then well, I'll use the word again, re-swizzle their page. All of a sudden, they're attracting folks, to campus, and it's because they're not like every other school. So,
Can I ask Danny? Like, it sounds like you've been so generous about the impact the academy has had for you, but it's also clear that you're an amazing educator and an amazing entrepreneur itself. And like, if I'm hearing you describe it, what the things that I feel like specifically you got from the academy that's helped you have your best year ever. One is take all the intellectual capital that you built over time, and it sounds like you've picked away a template in language to express it more sharply and clearly, right? All the, play it safe principles. So Ruckus Maker is the Frodo, what's the problem? Like, I can just see all of your stuff infusing with category design so that it just pierces through the noise, which is for your core education offer, which is fantastic. And then the second thing, I think, you tell me, I think we had a conversation about you raising your pricing as a result of that. So tell me if I'm remembering that correctly. And the third thing, because you have a problem with learning, is that you're also dabbling in things that are category design, not about education, but people who are seeing your skills as a category designer in business. And
yes.
it's so incredible that you would be unafraid to go do that. And the gut feel that I always had was that it wasn't so much that it wasn't necessarily that you were trying to make a pivot, but you knew that skill set would help you in your core education. But like, is that about right? Like sharpening the language and making it pithy and a template from your current stuff, raising pricing, and then adding other skill sets outside of education that generate revenue on their own, but also help you be an even stronger category designer within education. Are those the specific things?
Yeah,
One
yeah.
thing I want to add to that, Danny, is on the third point, you had mentioned doing some category design, marketing flywheel. You're starting to figure this out, right? The media side of category design and marketing side of it. So I would love it if you could also talk about that as far as the other skill sets and how you're doing this and making it work.
Right. Okay. And I'm still, this is very early stages, right? And I haven't launched anything yet. Still trying to figure it out. So tell me where my ideas suck too and where to improve. But yeah, directionally, most of what you shared there, certainly very confident, very clear on the message and putting that out there. And one of the biggest benefits of category design as well is like it just cuts through the noise and sifts people quickly, right? Everybody's not for you, and that's okay. If you think everybody's gonna like love your product, sometimes earlier entrepreneurs, right? This is for everyone or everybody's gonna buy it. No, they're not. Why do you believe that? You're totally kidding yourself, and you live in a fake world that doesn't exist. So, in one point, like I haven't done a lot of paid advertising, but I dabbled in that to grow my newsletter. I grew it by 2,000 people relatively shortly in like a month. Why? Because the point of view, you know, and it was hitting the marketplace, and people that were like, yeah, I'd like to learn more. They signed up, right? It was a free offer, so that was super successful. Uh, Raised prices in some respects. Like I had more of a, I think Christopher called it a super ding dong offer, right? So I went to, there's a real cool campus in New Jersey that I have the pleasure of working for, uh, with throughout the year and serving them some coaching stuff, consultant stuff, a few site visits. That's one of the biggest checks I've ever earned in education, right? And that, to be honest, I didn't think it was possible, Well, egg on
Hold on a
my
sec. Hold on a
face.
sec.
Egg on my face, guys.
So just unpack a little. Exactly, and if you don't want to disclose the specific numbers, that's fine. But exactly what didn't you think was possible, which you then proved to yourself was
Yeah.
wrong, and now you're happy that you proved to yourself that it was wrong, and you created literally a different future.
Yeah. Right. So, what do you want me to answer with that? Sorry.
So you thought something wasn't possible,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you did it, and then you had an aha, and now the thing that you didn't think was possible is part of your regular work in life.
Yeah.
Yes?
Absolutely true. I mean, so I've had like courses people can just grab on demand, and those are relatively cheap, from 50 to 350 bucks. The school leader mastermind, that's been around 3,500 for the year for quite a while, right? So this is education price. This is just what it is. Um, one of the bigger packages, I'm like, well, people generally, seem to like be around me and they get value when I'm coaching them and that kind of thing. And by the way, I've got a team of coaches, right, that fulfill the service as well. I thought, well, what if we put out there to our super consumers, people that I love and love what we do, an opportunity to do the mastermind, get some quarterly one-on-one coaching, and oh, by the way, come out to our summer live event too. So that pushed things to 3,500 to 6,000, and I've been able to, people want that, and this is in a, kind of a chaotic space and time in education, right? If you read the news, yeah, and then the one where I'm working with a campus, I think I proposed like maybe 22 or 25K or something like that. And I've known this guy for a long, long time. So relational capital is such a big deal, right? And all of you have talked about that. I've sent gifts like when this guy's kids gone to college. I bought him like a big college flag type of thing, and just genuinely love the guy. And we check in on each other, and yeah. Anyways, um, and so he wanted some support throughout the year, and he said, "Hey, I need a win here to go back to the board. All right, let's do 20 then. Can we agree on that?" And he said yes, and so that worked out, right? Now there's bigger contracts out there for sure in education, especially if you're like some like larger entity than I am, and you're doing system level work. I know there's 6-figure, 7-figure stuff that could be out there, but for me, it's almost like this solopreneur, just this little rock band, right? So with some co-hosts that play the songs with me, and we don't do curriculum facing, like student facing stuff. That's almost easy to sell, right? Because everything's about the kids, as it should be. And what I've found over a decade is that selling leadership, sort of optimization, leadership development, that's not the sexiest or most wanted thing, right? And that was actually an aha here. So we're back to Category Design Academy, and actually strategy therapy too, right? So I did that workshop. I won't give away, the steps, but I was having a conversation with AI, and then I fed the response. Well, didn't feed. I requested some of my clients to read through the feedback that I got, right, and to separate the BS from the truth. And the people that I sent it to all seemed to resonate with one line, which was really weird. Because for 10 years, I thought I was in leadership development, right? And they said, no, Danny, we work with you because if education ain't a bit disruptive, what are our students really learning? I said, oh my gosh, been talking about the wrong thing for 10 years. Oh, well, at least I know now.
Power of
Never
empathy.
mind.
Yeah. But that had to do with, like, it's more about legacy. It's more about, man, all the blood, sweat, and tears I put on in campus every single day. And they work hard. These are the hardest workers that I know. They're asking, is it worth it? And is there a space where I could figure out creating a campus experience that's worth showing up for? That's, listen to the words, a campus experience worth showing up for. So that I talk about that a lot, and that seems to resonate, with people, and that's the type of work we do, figuring that out. We've created a space where we could talk about that.
Incredible.
I never got to your part, Katrina.
Is it wrong for one man to love another man, Danny?
It's not wrong at all. But to Pirate Katrina's point, in the part that is really early stages, I'm never gonna exit education. This really matters to me. I also know that I can serve and help in different spaces and probably even capture more value for my family. So I'm interested in exploring that. And if I could figure that out, by the way, then stuff I do in education might be just a gift, which is kind of exciting to me. And so one of the things I'm noodling on is this idea of creating sort of a media company, one with a category design lens, potentially with like a suite of shows that have, really clear point of view and that kind of thing. And, scaling that up to $1 billion, right? And making a huge impact in the world.
But Danny, you have all the, I think you have the following pieces, which suggests what you're describing is very doable. You have your 0.5 top percent podcasts.
Correct.
You got multiple best-selling books. So you got intellectual
Yes.
capital up the wazoo. You got relationship capital up the wazoo. Obviously, your reputation stands on itself. You also have multiple courses, which I don't think I fully appreciated that you had that as well too going on. You have a good, better, best offer, right? You have all of those things that are there that help you, value your value, so that when you do give time, it is appropriately premium. And then the last thing I think is, I don't know if this is the most recent thing, but you've also launched your own academy or your own Mighty Networks cohort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it strikes me that when we wrote the marketing funnel funeral book in the marketing funnel flywheel, you tell me you seem to have, the Kickstart podcast books. People can come in from anywhere and everywhere, right? They can engage you with your courses. They can engage you with your consulting, all great. But in the middle, you have this cohort of people who will just, am I ready for a course? Am I ready for the full Danny or not? I mean, I don't know if I'm a ruckus maker, but I'm going to go hang out in the course, in the community rather, and see what it's like to be with other ruckus makers before I make the final leap. Like, it seems like you have all the pieces to do what you're describing. Am I missing anything?
No, you're not. And that's why it's super exciting, because I've been doing what I've been doing for 10 years. And like I said, I don't want to fully exit. And I love reinventing myself and growing. And a big thing you learn in the Category Design Academy is like, what's your superpower, right? And when I was going through that personally and as a business, I was thinking a lot about the results that I've created for school leaders, and all that's appropriate. But I think the aha recently with this media thing is that, oh yeah, that's kind of like a major superpower. you know, maybe you should do more of that. And yeah, I'm yeah talking to somebody about that, and he calls it my magic dust. So I think yeah, we'll see what happens.
And
You
so
know,
there's an interesting thing I think you're uncovering here for us, Danny, which is when we have the superpower conversation,
hmm,
what makes you different? How does that different make a difference? How's it valuable? The value of your value, all of that stuff.
mm-hmm,
Many people think, well, there's a superpower, like I'm a great educator, as you clearly are. But wait a minute. Your superpower, just like new categories create new
mm-hmm.
superpowers
That's a
set
good
you up to
point.
have new adjacent superpowers.
Yeah.
And so if somebody had said to you 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
that you were going to become a niche media mogul in the domain of teaching educators how to be ruckus makers and how to change things and how to create environments that are really worth getting up working for, working in, and most importantly, kids coming to and learning.
mm-hmm.
And because I mean, I don't want to sound overly corny, but if there's anything more important than making legendary people out of young people, I'd like to know what it is. And so now you're a guy, you're a podcaster, you're a digital creator, you're a media mogul, you're an online with Mighty Networks community leader, et cetera, et cetera. You're an insane content creator, intellectual capital creator, et cetera, et cetera. And so if we were to take the original superpower of, oh, I have teaching, oh, I have leadership, I become a principal. Although somebody didn't think I was a leader, turns out they were incredibly wrong. They can go fuck themselves. You know, and so my point is, it appears to me, and I'm really curious as to your reaction, that one superpower has spun up an adjacent superpower and spun up an adjacent superpower and another adjacent superpower. And to your point on reinvention, here you are. And now, I mean, clearly you're doing all this. You're doing a ton with AI, right? In a world, your world is one that it's doing the Heisman to AI, is saying
Mm-hmm.
no to AI, which I find terrifying, but that's a different conversation. But my big question is, you've discovered your one superpower has led to the next one and the next one. And now you've got this legendary Venn diagram of connected superpowers. I'm curious as to your reaction about that, Danny.
To me, I think what's really difficult about the work is sometimes you're so close to it, right? And that's why you need these communities and you need mentors and friends that can say, "Hey, what about this? Like you're clearly really great at it," and you just take it for granted. I think Derek Sivers has a quote: "What's ordinary to you is extraordinary to me." Even though I had the quote memorized, like you forget it, and yeah, so it's helpful. And a few folks have pointed that out and about probably 6 months, 8 months ago, because I'm a course super consumer, I was in one about newsletters because I just had gotten lazy, with it. And that's when I had the original epiphany that, oh, I already have a media company. I just kind of do coaching and consulting on the side because what I found is my sponsors get great value and they're the easiest, most profitable sale I make. Why don't I do more of that? Because sometimes selling direct to principals or school systems is really
Yeah.
quite difficult. And so yeah, I won't tell you the company, but I have to tell the legendary outcome. One of my sponsors, big sponsor, right? You would know it, like big box store, like really amazing place. They said, Danny, uh, you send us more people than the National Superintendent Association. How about that? So yeah, I'm going to lean into the media thing, and see what I can
Turns
do.
out Ruckus Maker Media Company might be a very smart idea.
I
Ooh,
have
I
that
love that
URL
name.
too. Oh, I already have Ruckus Maker Media, my last 3 books, because my first bestseller I did, and believe me, I loved the experience. I worked with a traditional publisher, Corwin. Actually, that National Superintendent Association co-published it. The book that was my first bestseller. But the author deal you get is like, from a profit standpoint, not so good.
Mhm.
So I'm like, well, if I'm doing a lot of the marketing and selling, might as well keep most of the profit, right? And that was cool and fun, and I enjoyed working with them. Learned a lot. So the last 3 books I've done has been under Ruckus Maker Media. I didn't even realize I would be starting that at some point. But yeah, so here we are. And the cool unlock for me with it as well is that I have to clearly define more what this means to be a ruckus maker in the world, not just education. But I could do a lot of different stuff. And as you all know, I'm launching a bourbon newsletter next week, I think. And so,
Super 1, Super 9.
Now,
yeah,
Danny, I don't condone the use of bourbon.
yeah, because you want rum or whiskey or something like that.
No, I condone the regular use of bourbon.
Okay, I knew it was going somewhere.
It's my
Well,
favorite.
in the funny
Although
story,
I'm very open to the others. A tequila, a Mai
right.
Tai is nice. There's a lot of.
Oh man, we can really nerd out on this stuff because I'm starting to learn how
By the
to.
way, I would love to. I would subscribe to your bourbon club instantly. A
We'll do it.
curated quarterly, monthly. Because I don't. People ask me all the time, "What's your favorite bourbon? What's your favorite whiskey?" And it sounds like a dumb answer, but I actually don't really have one. I mean, I have ones that I like and I go to all the time, and I'm always up for a good Jack Daniels, which I know upsets a lot of people. But and I've had incredibly expensive, hard to get bourbons, and all the way down to Jack and everything in between. And so, bottom line, I'm always trying new bourbons. I have friends that are similar. And so, I would love to be educated on what are the next bourbons that I need to buy, or even better, just have you send them to me.
Right on. Well, there's some stuff in the works. We have a lot of ideas, but for Pirate Christopher, anybody that wants to check it out, it's rickhouse.news/subscribe, because Rickhouse is where they store the barrels. Pirate Katrina, it looked like you wanted to say something.
I'm just saying we have to wrap soon because we've got
Oh, I see that.
we've got
So
another
let me
guest
just
at 11. So let's final closing thoughts, Danny.
And Danny has the top of the hour too. So
Yeah.
closing thought, closing story. So I landed a deal helping a buddy blow up his green building podcast and start a newsletter, right? Using category design principles. So I started doing the media stuff. I didn't even realize it, right? Which is pretty cool. And to celebrate, we go to a nice dinner, back to his hotel room. He's got all these little vials, dark little vials. Charlie, do you have a problem? You can tell me. It's a safe space. He's like, God forbid, Danny, that the hotel has very average bourbon. And so he little vials, little pours, little tastes of this really nice stuff. And I just started asking, tell me more about this group. And there's this, fairly big, really enthusiastic group of bourbon enthusiasts out there. I'm going to try, I think the name, how we have ruckus makers. I think I'm going to call this community barrel heads. We'll see if that works, like kind of like deadheads, parrot heads, that kind of thing. I think it'll catch on. And if you're listening or watching this and want to see, does Danny have the magic dust and is he full of it or can he do it again? Go to
I want to be a
rickhouse.news.
barrelhead,
Yeah.
Danny.
You already are
Okay,
officially.
well, then put me in
I'm
the
not
club.
betting against Danny.
Send me a
Barrelhead.
form to
You're a barrelhead.
fill or a Venmo or something. What do I have to do?
It's free for now.
Well, Danny, we are so excited to see what you do next. You've proven that you can go from a traditional industry like education and design your own space, make it your own, make a business out of it, then lean into the other super of 1, super of 9, squiggly lines wherever that takes you. So we're just so grateful that you came here today and talked to us, that you're a part
Thank
of
you.
Category Pirates and the category design community, because you're making ruckus and we love it. So keep going. And if people want to learn more about you, You obviously shared rickhouse.news for your bourbon newsletter, but where is another spot that people can come learn more about what you're doing in education?
Yeah, subscribe to the Rick House. If you want to see the school leader stuff, that's ruckusmakers.news or betterleadersbetterschools.com, which Christopher hates as a name, but I didn't know category design when I launched it 10 years ago.
It's
So
okay.
sorry.
I hate it a lot less now that I know what you're actually doing.
Yeah, and I think those are the best places to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny.
Can
You
I
bet.
can I do one last thing, Danny?
Sure.
We're going to bestow you a name because you're
Okay.
not just Danny Bauer. You are Danny the creator, the I have a problem super consumer, and the OG ruckus maker. So God bless you and do amazing things in the world. So
Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Danny.
Seriously.
Can you
Thank
all
you.
just, I'm going to stop the recording.